Hi, my name's John. Welcome to another Sunday night nightcap. As you're sitting watching this, I shall hopefully be driving up the A1 after having a hopefully successful weekend at the NEC Classic Car Show. If you did come and see us on the Extreme stand or the Artex stand, it was really nice to have met you. Anyway, back into the sort of what's going to happen now, which I suppose is the future, because you haven't watched the video yet. I'm going to put two videos up tonight, both the same subject. I was at my friend's place, the lad was doing up the Wallace and Stevens traction engine, and we did some more work on his firebox, on his boiler. We riveted some steers over. I showed quite a bit of that. The first video, that's quite a bit of talk and discussion. In the second video, we'll actually get down to it and get something done. I'm sure you'll find it's interesting. It's certainly hard work, it's real proper graft, and that's using modern day equipment. It must have been really hard in the 1800s when they did it like completely all by hand. I've got a great deal of respect for people that did that sort of work. The piss-wobbly and the double boost caps are now back in stock, and there is a link in the description box to the eBay items. If you want to support me directly, the way to do it is go and buy a hat. Morning, Howard.
Hello again, John. How are you doing this morning?
Not too bad.
Good to hear you.
Well, I'm back again. I was invited us down, and what we're going to try and do is round over or rivet or seal the boiler stairs that were screwed in 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm going to bring the camera in a little bit closer, and Howard's basically going to talk us through the process.
Right then, John, today we're going to finish off these stairs. Now, the stairs, basically, we have an inner firebox and an outer firebox. It's basically a box inside of a box.
Right.
Okay. Straight plates, pressure doesn't like it. They're wanting to press themselves apart all the time.
Yep.
Like expand them. So what we've got, to all intents and purposes, we've got threaded dowels, as it were, that go through and link the two together.
Yep.
Now, I've actually getting a bit ahead of myself here because I should have left one out so we can see it.
The last time I was here, we put the long tap in to put
That's
the
right.
stone. Yeah.
And what I should have done is waited a little bit for you to come and show you how to do it.
We've screwed them in.
But what I've done is I've sort of made this up. So if we can imagine, that's the inner firebox. This is the outer plate. This is actually this plate here. So.
And it actually is about that far apart, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the boiler plates are a little bit thicker than this, but that's about the right proportion and
apart,
everything. Yeah.
And these are just mild steel studs, nothing?
The certified, I've got to get paperwork for them and everything to satisfy the boiler man, but in essence, yeah, they're at EN1, I think they are.
Yeah.
So in essence, I've cut them to length, we screw them up, tight in. They do vary a little bit in the length of them, so I tend to leave them a little bit oversized.
Right, okay.
I'll screw them in so that there's a correct amount through on the inside, and then grind off the outside to length.
Because obviously you can get to the outside where the inside's
it's
it's
a lot less fun grinding off in a firebox. Right. It's, you know, the dust in your face, and it's just not very safe. It's a lot safer where you can do it from the outside. Yeah. So wind it in to the correct length on the inside, and then basically take them down from there.
So basically, once that's screwed in, that gives that the material strength, yeah?
As soon as you wind that in, the structural integrity of the box is there, you know.
So all we're going to try and do is seal the threads, basically?
Yeah, in essence. It's sort of, we're sealing it up, obviously, to stop leaks. We're also sort of beading it over to stop corrosion getting in.
Right, okay,
and quite frankly, it just makes it look good as well.
It does look nice, I must admit.
So
you're aiming for like a domed...
Sort of, yeah. In actual fact, this is a horrible job, you know. I mean, it's a big engine. This is 132 steers, which is 264 ends, and I've been sick of my life.
Yeah, you will be. You've got to have a strong heart to take on it, especially as yourself, you know. Especially yourself.
But we're down to the last 7.
And that's me, that one.
That's the one. That's the one that you drilled.
I drilled it in school, right?
Now, just give you a bit of scale of sort of what we're dealing with here. Put that down. Just before you came, I did a little bit of measuring up, and I measured that we were 33 inches there to there, and 27 inches there to there. This boiler is working pressure is 120 psi.
Right, okay.
So if you multiply that by that, we've got 841 square inches.
Right.
If you multiply that by 120 psi,
Yep.
it actually comes out. There's 47 tons of pressure
Trying to blow that off.
trying to cave the
Yeah.
box in and push that. So that's what we're dealing with.
So if I was
you
no
know?
stairs in there, that would just...
Oh, they would just
Yeah,
belly out, you know,
yeah.
and as I say, it would feel.
And you say 120 psi, it's not a high pressure
No, this
compared to one of them things.
Me,
260.
my great uncle Larry there, he loved him to death. He used to say this is not a steam engine, he says a hot water engine.
Hot water engine.
Because they're only 120 psi. But as I
but
say,
still,
that's what we're working with, as it were, like, you know. So
I mean, you can see where the power comes from with that sort of tonnage, and you get a piston. I mean, it must have, what, 12-inch torque on that engine?
it's not quite that, but
So your surface area, the piston,
Yeah.
that's where the massive power and torque comes from.
Absolutely. Now, just another thing regarding the steers. Obviously, we've replaced the firebox on this totally, and indeed retubed it and a whole lot.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, the firebox wasn't in too bad a condition. It probably had another 10 years in it.
Really?
It was actually the steers that were knackered.
Right.
You know, and I dug one out. We'll have a close look at this later on.
Yeah.
But this is one of the original steers out of it. And obviously this is the thick part that goes through the outer plate. But you might be able to see there,
It's necked away.
it's totally sort of corroded away. Yeah. And obviously it's losing its structural integrity in that. And if they start going, obviously then you've got problems, as it were. You can't actually just replace these.
Right, okay.
But it's hard work, it's hard going, and frankly, another 10 years it would need the box doing. So I just thought,
I'll do it now.
I'll do it now. I'm sort of young enough, I'm fit enough just to do it. If I'd left it 10 years, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it.
I believe on the railways as well, you're allowed so many broken stairs.
I don't know what the rule is on that.
I know on the railways they have a hole drilled through there.
Some of them, yeah.
So if the stair fails, it's going to steam out.
Correct,
and
yeah.
it would blank it off.
That's
but
right.
I think when they do a hammer test, I think they're allowed 1 in 8 or something like that. I'm not sure.
I mean, talking about testing them, the sort of traditional way, it's like the wheel tappers and shunters.
Yeah,
they would go with a hammer and just dink them on the top, and they would ring. And if they were broken, they would make a dull.
Like a dead. Yeah.
I mean, now, obviously, with the technology that they have, they use these sort of sonic testers and they can literally measure the thickness of the steer. And obviously, you can physically measure it, and it's supposed to be about 4 inches. So if they're putting the probe on the end there, if it measures 2 inches, you know you've got a break.
Broken steer.
You know.
Yeah.
And obviously, the other thing they can do with them, through these little mud hole doors and that can get the endoscope up inside, right the way up, and you can view the whole lot.
You can't hide anything anymore.
I mean, we might have a look up there later on if you like. You know,
I wouldn't care. I've got it. I know you brought it down.
Got one?
Endoscope, good lad. Excellent,
So basically, that's where we're at. So as I say, your problem potentially with the steers is then necking out. Yeah. So we've replaced the box, we've put brand new tubes in, brand new steers. Right. Hopefully that'll see us out.
Yeah. And the first thing I'm going to do was cutting the length. Yeah.
As I say, first things first, put the steer in, get it to the correct length inside, and then I've got to take these off a bit now. There's, I can't remember, I think it's 5mm. I worked it out to the ideal length sticking through. It's just a nice little trick for his little hackers to call it these days. It's just a bit of engineer's chalk.
Right, okay,
It's now clever
that
about
happens
it.
to be just
and
the
that
right thing.
happens to be, I don't know if you can see there, but that's basically working out to exactly the correct size. So I've ticked that one. That one's all right. That one's all right. That one's all right.
Mine would be all right, wouldn't it?
Of course, perfect. Yeah, but that one, and these two.
You can see that's sticking out further along.
That's right. So what I've done, I just need to grind them off, but I don't want to run the risk of necking the side off. So I just put a big washer over the top.
So that's a technical slip gauge,
Yeah, that's me gauge. So that's down nicely.
You just kind of worked out that's the best thickness to get the best shape. That's the way it works.
I'm sure there's some science, but basically a little bit of chalk does the job. There's a few different ways of doing it. The actual cheating way is to weld the bugger up. And I mean, some of the guys are doing it, and some professional operations are doing it now.
You're doing one, and you want to do one the traditional way.
I mean, with this engine, it's my own engine. I'm not a professional. Be honest, if I was sending it out to the man, as it were, it would cost us a fortune.
The thing, if you were welded, you'd need a coated welder.
And I don't think you would, because you're not breaking the pressure vessel. But either way, as I say, some guys do, as it were. I'm a happy hobbyist, as it were. You know, I'm doing it myself. I'm trying to use traditional methods. Don't get us wrong. I'm not opposed to using a mag drill every now and then, sort of thing. But I'm trying to do it by traditional methods.
My initial thoughts would be to heat that up.
Trouble is, we're heating it up. Anything you heat contracts back again. So it shrinks back. So the whole point of what we're trying to achieve here is to seal it up. Now, if you heat it up, it would shrink back, you know, and then you're losing your seal. That said, some of the railway guys, they actually leave they'll leave a great big length on here. They'll neck them in, which I'll show you in a minute. Then they'll heat it up and braid over. But it's a slightly different technique, as it were, like, you know. Anyhow, with these traction engine ones, there's a couple of ways of doing it. Now, that's me great Uncle Harry before there. He showed us 20 odd years ago. So this is the chisel out the gun. Obviously, we'll when we get the proper gun on, we'll see it for real. But in essence, we're hitting it. To all intents and purposes, we're hitting it with a hammer to try and swell it, so that we're sealing it into the threads. Okay. So you showed us start with there, and as it's rattling, you're sort of going round and round and round, and in essence, we're trying to swell
Increase the diameter.
Increase the diameter and swell it, which will seal it up. And if you did that well enough, that's it sealed. Really, you know. So as I say, we're trying to obviously, you know, stop leaks, as it were. So if we can braid that up and hold it up there, that's it sealed. The next stage is basically tidying it up. So then we start going round at an angle, and we're trying to bead it over. And then we might go sort of once or even twice, depends what mood they're in, and then try and take it into a steeper angle, sort of round like that. Now, obviously, while you're doing that, it might look easy with that, but you're trying to hang on to it, and it's rattling the lugs off it. It's deafening. And you've got to try and sort of work the gun round, as it were. You know, I'm trying not as well to hit the plate, because obviously then it's got dinks in, and I've got to try and fix it. So as I say, if we can avoid doing that, better.
Of course, like you say, with it being bigger as well, it will prevent rust.
Well, this is the other thing. So obviously, A, we're trying to seal it, but B, we're trying to stop rust penetrating into it, as it were. A little bit of rust is actually good, because it helps to sort of seal it up, as it were, you know. But once it's sealed up, going forward, you don't want them rotting out, as it were, you know. And then finally, it just tidies them up. You know, sort of. Feel good about it.
Makes them look nice.
You know. Second technique, which my cousin now Vince showed us. So using a pointy tool, if you sort of go in, and what you're actually doing is necking some of the outer plate and pushing it into the threads. You're actually corking.
That's a corking here.
Yeah, so you're basically taking it around, sort of like so, taking it in a bit, and in actual fact, it's not really necessary to sort of to knock them up as hard. But frankly, John, I've just been doing both. You know, as I say, I'm not a professional. I don't want to be doing this twice if I can help it. So what I've been tending to do with them is sort of lightly taking them around like that. And then the second tool, round and round, as how Harry showed us. And then round and round a bigger diameter, and then start to coming in.
Blend the ends in,
like so, as it were. We'll get the compressor on, get the airline on. We need to get our PPE on. This makes a hell of a racket. We need EMUs on.
I mean, I can't hear the rest of the team, you know.
Obviously, bit of eye protection and some decent gloves, as it were. But one health and safety thing. Health and safety used to be called self-preservation, didn't it?
It used to be common sense.
These are not captive in there. At all. So basically, if I press that trigger and I haven't got a hold of it, it'll shoot out, you know. And if you're in the way, you'll know about it. And I can tell you a story about that. About a year ago, I was working in there, and it was the first time. It wasn't this gun; it was a
inside of
different one in the Firebox.
All right, yeah.
And the trigger jammed, the shot out, hit it, ricocheted, and actually hit us in the head. You know, frightened the living daylights out of us, like, you know. And so basically, as I say,
these aren't toys.
No.
And the environment you're working in,
absolutely
you're working by yourself most of the time.
Absolutely.
Health and safety is.
So it's just a sort of habit you get into when you're working, and as soon as you stop, pull it out, take it out, and then straight in again. Off you go,
like a gun in it, you only unload the bloody thing.
Yeah, I've actually got a smaller gun, which is captive. But these bigger ones, they're not like, you know, so as I say, you've got to...
is that specifically designed as a rivet gun? Is that
These are actually corking guns, they're smaller than I've got a riveting gun down there.
Because they use a similar thing on the ground, don't they? Cutting coal. Like
it's like they're basically a pneumatic hammer.
A windy pick.
Yeah, that's what they call them, as I say. And then, as I say, they've got a shuttle that runs backwards and forwards in here, and obviously it impacts
I've got a smaller one at work for cutting.
Yeah. I mean, I've got a little one I actually got from Tool Station or somewhere like that. It's just a little hand one, and I actually found that when you're working inside, you've got no room to get that in, you know. So the little one's actually it's done an okay job. But with this, I've got plenty of room, so we can get in with a big gear. But as I say, just to reiterate, if you're going to do it, take it out as soon as you stop.
So it's eye protection, ear protection, decent gloves, common sense.
Absolutely.
Right. Let's have a start.
Good.